What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nathan and this is Full Throttle Cars. In today's video we are expanding on the rebuild series on this Polaris Ranger 2007. So with that said, let's get straight into it. Alright guys, so just a little overview of what we did so far to this Ranger since the last video on it. The main thing is that we replaced the fuel pump. So that is right above the fuel tank. What we had to do was just basically take the whole assembly out of the tank. You can see it over on the other side of the Ranger. Put in a new pump and a couple other parts, and that actually made it be able to force fuel into the engine. After we fixed the fuel pump, we realized that the ignition was bad. For some reason, whenever we put in the new fuel pump, some electronic must have fried whenever we tried to turn it on. So now we're going to need a new ignition. But whenever you hot wire it, the engine actually turns over. So we know that there's not something wrong with the motor or the starter. Alright guys, so what we are going to do today in this video to this Ranger is replace two things. One is going to be the air filter. This is probably the stock air filter that came with this Ranger that is in it right now. We're going to put a brand new one in. Hopefully a lot cleaner air is going to come through this Ranger. Two, we are going to replace the Caltrak thermal temperature sending unit. So this unit went bad and was not telling the Ranger to cool down the water whenever it was getting too hot. So this Ranger would overheat whenever it was at an idle. So it wasn't moving, no air was going through the radiator, and it was just overheating because the water was actually starting to boil inside of the engine. Alright guys, so the first step in taking off your old sensor for when you're replacing your temperature sending unit is actually disconnecting this electrical connection here. So this is already off because our old unit got so hot that it actually melted off. You guys can see it right here. It just fits in right like this, and then it pretty much should kind of snap in place. I don't know if you heard that snap, but when it's gonna sit down in there, all you need to do to disconnect it is pull up on this black tab, and you're gonna wanna pull this off. Now this is a little bit sticky, so you might have to take a pair of pliers or something and actually pull it out while you have the pliers on it, which is what we're gonna do. All right guys, so the next thing that we're gonna do after that electrical connection is actually loosen this piece right in here. You might have to use a wrench, but we don't have to because it's broken. So you just have to take a ratchet onto that and loosen it, and then I'll loosen it here by hand. Alright guys, so that green fluid that is coming out right now, I put my finger over it. It's the antifreeze, it's the coolant that you have in your vehicle. So I'll take my finger off of it again and you'll see it dripping out of there. Just don't be alarmed. Know that you will have to refill your reservoir once you're done with this repair. Okay, so now you have this antifreeze leaking out. I am going to put this new sensor in. Just hand tighten it as tight as you can go, and the flow should primarily stop. Okay, so now we are using an open-ended wrench to get on this 3/4 inch and actually tighten it even farther than hand tight. So you don't want to tighten it too far, but you definitely don't want to tighten it too loose. Alright guys, so I now have the temperature sending unit tight. So now I'm going to take this electrical connection, and there is actually a guide on it to make sure that I do not put it in the wrong way. But you should hear a little click if you are doing this yourself whenever you're putting in the new one and attaching the sensor. So on one side there will be this little kind of a circle on the sensor, and that is where the gap in the back goes, and the rest just pushes on. Alright guys, so the second and easier of the two that I am doing today to replace and fix this Ranger is the air filter. So I'm just going to go over here and unclip the two clips. Here's the old nasty air filter. You guys can see. Surprised there's no dust coming off of that. I'm just gonna pop this new one back in and then throw the cover right on and clip down the clips. Alright guys, so now we have those two new parts on. I'm going to just explain again what is still wrong with this Ranger, what more we need to do to get it running. So I explained in the beginning that the ignition is completely bad. So whenever we put in that fuel pump, we realize that the ignition is bad, and we know that it's not the starter because if you actually direct power to the starter, or in other terms hot wire it, the starter will actually turn over the engine. So that is something that we're going to need to replace, is the ignition. Another thing that we're going to need to replace in the future is the throttle body adapter. So you guys can probably see this right here. If I do that, this lifts up. That is not supposed to happen. So we're going to need to replace this rubber piece, which is actually like a $50 rubber piece. So that's going to be a pricey repair for what it does, but nonetheless it does need to happen. Another thing is the valve cover needs a couple more screws. That's right beside that throttle body adapter. And then we'll just go from there after we replace that ignition, and hopefully this thing will run after that, but that'll be a couple videos down the road. Alright guys, if you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe, hit the notifications bell, share the video. Help us to reach 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.